It's not
All right,
Tony.
y'all. Hey, we are live. How is
Hello,
everybody?
hello.
Let me see.
Okay.
Uh, let's see here. Okay, I think we're good. Can y'all give us a one in the chat if you can hear us?
What's going on here? No.
We are live today. Okay, welcome to Wealthy and Worthy Wednesday.
Welcome,
We are
guys.
Hi.
so excited to be here with you all again this week. And as we prepare to jump into the discussion, listen, I want to just level set with y'all, right? So as we've started this new year, right, we have really been resisting the narrative of new year, new you, doing all the things, all the productivity hacks, right? We are kind of resisting that in this season, right? We're taking it easy, right? And we're talking about energy, right? Because high capacity, highly capable women don't usually have a time problem. They usually have a energy misalignment problem. Okay, pause. Let that sink in. All right. You do not have a time problem. You have an energy misalignment problem, right? So you're capable, you're disciplined, you know how to execute, and you execute at a very high level. But this is what I want you to be considering today. All right. Where is your leadership energy leaking? All right. That's question number one. Number two, where are you tolerating friction because you are capable enough to handle it? All right, that's question number two that I want you to be kind of pondering on. Question number three is where are you over functioning in rooms that were not created with you in mind or designed to support you? Okay, so that's kind of the lens and the paradigm by which we're coming to this conversation today, right? And so before we jump to architect something new, we have to first take a look at the data that we currently have and do an audit to assess what currently is happening, right? We got to look at it, define the thing first, right? And so you cannot redesign your life, your habits, anything if you have not first examined it, okay? So today is purely about awareness, okay? And nothing that we share, okay, is ever about shame or blame. It's always about inviting you to take an honest look at where you are compared to where you'd hope to be. Okay. So before we dive into the discussion today, I want to officially welcome someone very special to our Wealthy and Worthy panel, and it is Dr. Janika Benoit. So you probably know her as Dr. J, all right? Now, Dr. J is a board-certified internal medicine and sports medicine physician, a doctor, an MD, all right? She is also the founder of Investel Health and Wellness, and she works with high-achieving women who feel frustrated by their bodies and helps them to better understand their metabolism and energy, all right? Now, what we love about Dr. J's work is that she really challenges the narrative that if something feels off physically, the answer is just be more disciplined, right? We're not going for that, right? Because often it's not a willpower issue, it is a strategy issue. Okay. And so that aligns beautifully with our discussion today and every conversation that we're going to have leading up to our Wealthy and Worthy live event, which is happening in Atlanta this August 21st through the 23rd. Go to wealthyworthy.org to check out those details, all right? Because when we talk about leadership energy leaks, we are not just talking about meetings and responsibilities. We're talking about metabolic health. We're talking about recovery. We're talking about long-term sustainability. And we're talking about the body that is actually carrying this level of ambition, okay? So Dr. J brings with her a critical lens to have this conversation, all right? Because you will struggle to lead powerfully if your body is constantly trying to compensate and keep up. Okay, so we're super excited to have her with us and a part of our ongoing conversation. So welcome, Dr. J.
Hi.
We're so happy to have you. All right, so we're going to jump into the discussion today, ladies. All right. So as we think about the topic, right, of not needing better time management, but needing more energy alignment for each of you, right, in the work that you do with women, where do you most often see willpower being overused instead of structure supporting a redesign? And we'll start with you first, Tiana. You're muted.
You're muted, dear. Yep. Let me mute myself, actually.
Sorry, guys. I see it being overused in just everyday life and activity. We overdo it often, us women, and so I see it poured into like creating like this massive schedule for our children or adding, I find myself doing this often because I have the willpower or the ability to do many things. I offer up myself to people unprovoked, unasked. Oh, I know how to do that. Put me in there. I can do it. But then when I step back, I'm like, I'm overwhelmed because I've overextended myself. Right. And so we put our willpower, a lot of things in just the everyday to day activities that is surrounding us in our lives. And sometimes we're just pulling it. And a lot of times we're masking things that we really need to deal with, that we don't really want to deal with because it's work, because it's overwhelming, because it's emotional. And so I would say in the everyday task, especially with the communities we're connected with, we overextend and we use our willpower in those areas.
Sorry, guys, I was muted.
I know, we're all like,
what's happening today with the mute? I love that. I love that because you brought the practicality to it of like how it can be so sneaky and show up kind of in the day-to-day things that we can sometimes miss because it's like, I'm just used to showing up as the superhero, right? That's really, really good. So Dr. J, we're going to turn it to you. Where do you see women pushing their bodies harder and assuming that a lack of discipline is the problem when the real issue may be metabolic or hormonal strategy?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I see this. So a lot of the ladies that I deal with are certainly high achieving. And a lot of the times they are doing the things. They are working out, they are making sure that they're getting their protein. But I see this a lot in exercise where it's just too much and they start to overcompensate. And so it's the hours of cardio or really pushing their bodies until failure. And also, a lot of them have careers that are high demand, high stress. And so, what happens is during the day, they may have inadequate nutritional intake, so not eating enough, or they maybe eat, too much of high energy dense foods. And so what happens is that there's an imbalance of nutritional intake. So for example, let's say you have meetings all day and you don't have enough time to eat because you're going and going and going, but at the end of the day you are starving. You are so starving. And so it is so easy to stop at the nearest, convenience fast food restaurant, just to get that nutrition in. And then you feel bad. You feel bad because you just, had that fast food meal and then you overcompensate by over exercising. And so I see that a lot in high achieving women because we want to hit the targets. We want to hit the goals, but there is an imbalance there between our nutritional intake and our energy output. And so it's understanding to really make sure that we are well nourished, not just physically. Are we well nourished emotionally? Are we well nourished spiritually? So we can make sure that we also have the right energy output to make sure that we're in alignment.
Oh, come on, Dr. J. I'm loving that. Listen, we needed to hear that. Okay. We needed to hear that because your body has to be able to manage and be able to keep up with all of these demands, right? That you keep putting on it. And if you are malnutritioned, right? And malnourished, I mean, like you're a wreck and you don't even know it. Like you are just a ticking time bomb before your body says that's enough, right? So we have to be paying attention to those cues. So thank you, Dr. J, for raising that. So now we're going to turn it to Jeannie, right? So Jeannie, as a therapist, a psychotherapist, where does this tend to show up psychologically, especially in women who tend to have a hard time decoupling their productivity from their worth?
Absolutely. I mean, this shows up in this field in the context of depressive episodes and anxiety episodes and panic episodes. Unfortunately, when we are of the mindset that I just need to try harder to get through things, and we're in a cycle where we're draining ourselves, we're saying, hey, let's force productivity even though we're exhausted. Let's suppress our sadness because we've got to do the next thing, right? Let's push through without any rest. Rest is a reward. Let's also partake in self-criticism because, of course, criticizing ourselves is the way to shame ourselves into more activity. And so we have this clinical consequence of increased shame, of, like we talk about and we've been talking about since last week, burnout, of even, and this is a trigger word, of suicidal ideation, right? This idea that I, in my wants and needs for myself, see myself in accomplishing all of these things. However, the reality of my situation at some point, like Dr. J said, is going to come to a head. I'm malnourished. I'm not helping myself in any way, and I'm pushing myself past the point of actual alignment to what I can actually do. And when it comes to feeling aligned and being aligned and seeing ourselves more clearly in these states, we're able to, I think, in our best, right? We're able to energy pace. We understand what I've got in the tank from based on what I put in the tank, and I can move myself in that regard inside of that cadence to be mindful of what I'm able to output. I can address my sleep. I'm addressing my nutrition. I'm addressing, if I need medication or something to help me in my life, right? And that's specifically for my women who are dealing with depressive episodes, anxiety, panic, things like that. Many times the work is in understanding that, like, we've got to holistically care for ourselves.
That's beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing each of your perspectives on that point. So now I want to pivot a little bit and talk about and double tap really on the word discipline, right? So when a woman says, I have women often in coaching like, oh, I just need to be more disciplined. I, need to wake up earlier. I need to stay up later or whatever, right? There's usually something else that I discovered is usually missing. Okay. So when we think about, somebody presenting and saying, I just need to be more disciplined, what is actually the thing that you see that's missing from your vantage point? And we'll start with you, Dr. J. Is it recovery? Is it sleep? Is it maybe kind of those fueling strategies that you mentioned? Or is it something else that's actually missing when women say, I just need to be more disciplined?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think when it comes to discipline, when women say that, there is a void that is not met. And I would say, let's take sleep, for example. I see this a lot where you have, that high achieving woman who needs to ensure that she's meeting the deadlines. And in lieu of meeting those deadlines, she's also sacrificing her sleep. And when you sacrifice your sleep, you're unintentionally saying that you are not deserving of rest, that you are not deserving of slowing down, that you are not deserving to work with ease, that everything has to be high, like high intensity all the time.
Mm.
We are able to still get deadlines met, and we're able to get the work done and be in a state of flow. It doesn't have to be high pressure. It doesn't have to be high stakes. It doesn't have to be we're on all the time, but we are able to achieve a state of flow. It obviously takes internal work to be able to do that, but I think it's important that we acknowledge that we are deserving of rest. We are deserving of slowing down. And once that happens, that also helps to balance out our metabolic health as well. Because sleep, I know we sometimes I feel like sleep gets minimized, and sleep, impaired sleep can increase cortisol levels. It can increase your hunger hormone. With your increased hunger hormone, that obviously makes you more hungry. Also makes you want to reach for high energy, denser foods. And so it's important that we make sure that we are getting adequate rest. About 7 to 9 hours is, considered adequate rest, adequate sleep rather. And so I certainly think that rest and recovery and knowing to slow down is important, and it's important to also make sure that we are not sacrificing our sleep in the state of wanting to become more disciplined.
Okay, y'all heard that? Listen, all right. If you must be more disciplined, okay? Let it be in getting sleep, okay? Because as Dr. J just mentioned, that is one of the most underrated opportunities, right, that we have to show ourselves kindness and care. Okay, so listen, follow up on that. Okay, so Tiana, as you think about women needing more discipline, right? Do you see that showing up as missing shared responsibilities, or maybe missing communication, or maybe missing some other dynamic in a relationship? How does that show up for you and the women that you work with?
Okay, so let's hit all three. Because sometimes it's one or the other, and sometimes it's all three at the same time, right? So when a woman says, I just need more discipline, it's often not really about discipline at all. It's usually like, let's talk about shared responsibility. So she's usually exhausted because she's carrying the invisible load, the planning, the remembering, the scheduling, the emotional labor. Discipline will not fix imbalance. Only partnership will fix imbalance. If we could get that down, oh my goodness, how much easier our lives will become. And then when we hit communication, so talking about communication or the lack thereof, right? So she hasn't clearly stated or said what it is that she needs. And that's most of the women that I work with, they have not communicated their needs. Or she has said it often and she hasn't felt heard, which also then builds frustration, resentment, which then Dr. J affects the emotion, or the Dr. J and Jeannie affects the emotional, the physical, and all of those things. So it's all connected, right? And then instead of addressing the disconnect, she internalizes and says things like, I need to do better. So then it becomes a us issue, like me personally, I am the problem, right? So when it comes to that, now you're going into the emotional safety of it, right? So she doesn't feel safe to rest, to ask for help, to disappoint someone, or what else? She calls it a discipline problem, right? But it's actually kind of like a nervous system problem, because now I'm losing sleep. I'm taking on too much, right? And then sometimes it is about structure. Like sometimes we do need boundaries. We do need better systems set in place. But even then, that works best when it's supported by, the people around you, right? So in my opinion, with working with women, I want to say high performing women default to blaming ourselves And we tend to say, if it's me, I can fix it. And that's not actually the issue. That mindset can keep us over functioning, and it will keep us in these environments of overwhelm. And so I think the better question for us to ask ourselves as high achieving women is it a discipline issue or is it a support issue? Because what I'm seeing is a lot of times it is a support issue. And so we really need to answer that question for ourselves of what it is for us specifically. So
Come on, let's go. Okay, listen. So listen. Okay, now she just hit that from all the angles. Okay, so sometimes it could be lack of support in your relationship, right, with your partner. It could be you, sis, not communicating what you need definitively, right? Sometimes it could be no consequences when you communicate what you need and it's not met.
Ooh.
That's the one.
Or we think we're communicating effectively and we think we're saying a thing and we're not.
Right.
So that is a self-reflected.
Yes.
Moment,
Yes.
right?
Yes. I love that. I love that. Oh, that's so good. Okay. Oh, that was good. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. So Jeannie, from your perspective, right, as we think about the mental health side of it, right, is what's missing when they say discipline? Is it the regulation? Is it permission? Or do you see that nervous system piece that Tiana mentioned?
It's consistently, I see a lot of all of those things. And I often see also these phrases, related to that saying, right? I just need more discipline. And the saying is like this conditionality, right? Like if I could be this, then I would see this happening in my life. And in some ways, it is not an honest reflection as to what these women are able to accomplish, right? I'm exhausting myself because I feel guilty for resting. If I were stronger, then these things that are showing up in my life, which are like whatever opportunities I'm not necessarily ready for, or situations where I'm balancing 8,000 things, wouldn't be hard for me if I were just stronger. And it's a lie. It clinically, what over reliance on discipline shows up as is repeated push crash cycles. So I'm going to push through and then I crash, right? And either I crash physically because I'm at my end, like Dr. J is talking about, or I crash on my partner, like Tana's talking about, because I'm like, why aren't they helping me? Why aren't they showing up? Or I just crash as a whole emotionally because I'm like, why can't I put on and take on as much as I told myself that I could? And it's because it's obviously too much. And so we see self-criticism showing up. We see cycles of short bursts of effort that are super effective that aren't sustainable. It's a difficult thing when we're talking about the clinical, because when we're talking about the clinical related to discipline, we're talking about values-based living, values-based behavior, right? Despite short-term discomfort, right? It's difficult for me to sit in my feelings. It's very uncomfortable for me to do that, but that's discipline, right? I feel something. I need to allow that to be in my presence emotionally, physiologically. I need to have that experience and give that the time, but it's uncomfortable for me. It's going to cost me that meeting that I have to go to, or it's going to cost me whatever else. And so discipline clinically is delayed gratification, it's emotional regulation, it's being mindful of your executive functioning. People aren't doing these things. They're shoving them off. They're punishing themselves. They're focusing on harsh talk. They're forcing productivity at all costs. And that's what I see in women who are not aligned and who are of that mindset that I just need more discipline.
Listen, y'all dropping the hammers today, okay? My Lord, listen, guilty, okay? Guilty. Raise your hand if you have been guilty of all of those things, okay? That crash, burn, or push crash cycle, diabolical, okay? Like, y'all got to be taking notes on that because that is a real thing. And it is not solved. What Jeannie was confirming for you is it is not solved by pushing harder. Okay? I'm going to say it as gently as I can. It is not solved by pushing harder. Okay. Now, what I see very, very often in my work with career and wealth advising for women is it shows up in a variety of ways, but largely I would say margin and delegation. Okay. So the inability or the refusal, honestly, in a lot of circumstances, to delegate things, right? You cannot do everything. So a lot of work that I do with women is helping them discern what are the things that only you can do, right? And if only you can do it and have mastery in it, then you keep it. But everything else, you figure out how to delegate, right? And then margin is really just having breathing room. Like Dr. J mentioned, right? That ease, that flow that you feel in your life, where if something disruptive happens, you're not spiraling, right? You can be flexible in your thinking and flexible, even in your emotions, right? That may come up because of a disruption, right? Because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Life disruptions happen to all of us. And so when those moments hit, how can we maintain our steadiness? How do we maintain, honestly, our sense of composure and control in the context of being a leader within a company, within your workplace, within you, right? Like as a leader, not control as in having to be the steward of all outcomes, right? But I'm talking about like being a steady leader, because when crisis happens and you are in a work scenario, or you are leading other people, people cannot follow you if you are wishy-washy and falling apart, right? They need a steady leader, somebody who can maintain composure and make hard but decisive decisions about how to move forward, right? That is what organizations hire for. That is why people get promotions, right? Not because they're perfect, but because they're willing to take calculated risk to move the ball forward, right? So as we think about the things that are missing when we say discipline, and how really a lot of times that can be kind of a code word. So if you are a high impact woman and you're watching this back on the replay and you ever find yourself, even in your mind, right, feeling like, I just got to be more disciplined. I need to be on it. I want you to use that as a signal to pause and get curious about, what is it that I'm really needing in this moment, right? How can I show up for myself better, whether that's in my career, whether that's in my mental health, whether that's in my relationships, or whether that's just physically in my body? What do I really need? So loving that conversation. So let's go. We're going to wind down with this next question for our discussion for today. But let me see which question, because we got a few questions left. Let's do this one. All right. How would a woman know the difference between being tired from growth and being depleted from misalignment? And we're going to start with you, Tiana.
Tired from growth. Okay, ask the question one more time.
Yes. Okay. So as a woman, right? If I come to you, I'm like, I don't know the difference between just being tired and exhausted from growing and maybe pushing myself and learning new things in this season, or whether I'm just completely depleted because I'm misaligned in the things that I'm actually doing.
For me, I'm going to talk for me personally and what I feel internally. Internally, like, I'm going to call it like overwhelm. Overwhelm feels like my body is tired. Like, if I don't get rest, I will not be able to focus. I will not be able to really function. It starts to affect my mental capacity. It starts to affect my emotional being, whereas I feel like misalignment is more so I don't understand what it is I'm encountering. I don't have all the answers, right? It feels like internally, like it's just not lining up for me. Right. So it doesn't really hit me emotionally deeply like the emotional overwhelm does, if that makes sense. So it's more of an internal feeling versus a kind of like outward observing feeling, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Yeah,
that's
so that's kind of like the distinguished line that I kind of measure like where I am, because some things I know is out of alignment immediately. I know when I meet a person and they're asking me to do business or they want me to be a part of something, a lot of times it takes one conversation. I know, not in alignment with my goals, not in alignment with my belief systems, not in alignment with where it is I see myself 1, 2, 5 years from now. But overwhelm, I feel it in my bones. I feel it in my soul, in my spirit. You understand what I'm saying? So
yeah.
it's just the level of depth is the difference.
I like that. And one of the things that you just mentioned that I love so much because you didn't say it, but you inferred it, right? Like
Mhm.
the point of being able to recognize like what doesn't align with your values and your goals and where you are requires a level of clarity that I think is kind of the pre-work, right? That
Yes.
is necessary to be able to discern, okay, am I just tired from growing and from taking on new challenges,
Mhm.
or am I just really in the wrong place and I
Mhm. Mhm.
need to figure out where my flow is, right? Because that flow is there no matter what. And it's your work, that's our work, right? As individuals, as human
Mhm.
beings, to tap into our own flow, right? Because it's different for each person. And so that clarity piece is really, really important because it is the clarity that actually gives you the courage to act.
Yes, we often tell people to be curious about other people, but we need to be curious about ourselves. Like,
Oh,
ask ourselves the question, like,
yes.
girl, what are you doing? What do you want? Where are you at? Like, seriously, right? Be curious about yourself because we get in go mode with no instruction, no direction, no end goal in mind. And we just go, 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 go. That's what causes the overwhelm.
Come on.
But
Listen,
if
all the
we're not
motion and no movement.
curious about ourselves and sit down for a moment, ask ourselves these important questions.
Listen, no, you're right. You hit that
Yeah.
spot on. You hit that spot on. So,
Mhm.
okay, so let's as we talk about self-curiosity, let's pass it to the therapist, okay? So, Jeannie, what is showing up emotionally or psychologically for women when they're trying to distinguish this difference?
I absolutely, I love the way that you just said that, Solana, and I'll take that ball and run with it for sure, for sure. It's this issue of, I mean, even this question in itself, how do we tell the difference? So many women who are over functioning aren't telling the difference because they're not even moving intentionally. They haven't even done the inner work to ask themselves the question of what exactly is it that's even motivating me? What is my actual value? What is a purpose-driven life? And when we're talking about the feelings that come up when we are aligned and inside of, I'm going to call it adaptive growth, right? What that looks like. It is, I'm mentally stressed, but I'm purposeful. I'm living on purpose. I'm tired, but I'm so satisfied. I'm so satisfied in what I'm doing that it feels worthwhile. I'm anxious, I'm nervous. I can't even tell you how many times I'm pushing through anxiety. Like it's ridiculous, but I'm like proud of myself for the stumbling words. I'm proud of myself that even though the stream of thoughts are coming in for me like this, that I'm like stilling it and able to get it out. Like it's a pride. It's hard, but it's worth it. I'm effortful, but it's so meaningful to me. Where when we are misaligned, it is clear. You are resentful. You are absolutely irritable. You are absolutely relieved when someone goes, "Oh, it's canceled." That we were doing a taping this week. It's canceled. You're like, "Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God." I didn't know if I could show up again. I just didn't know if I could do it again. You're emotionally numb a lot of the times, and you're just dreading. You're dreading before you're even getting started. That's how you know. It is exhaustion. It's tired from being misaligned because it's drained based fatigue. I think that word is a really great word. And we know the reason for it is it's because you're acting against your values. It's forcing you to suppress your emotions so you can do more. You're overriding your limits. I'm going to tell you, discipline will never ever be, it'll never ever be that. You being physically exhausted in order to accomplish something. That will never be discipline.
Oof. Come on, Jay. Listen, Jay, you making them clutch pearls today, okay? You listen, okay? Y'all for real, tap in on this one because those are really, really concrete examples that both Tiana and Jeannie gave you all for how that will show up in your relationships with yourself, with others, and also in your mental health. So, Dr. J, we're going to round it out with you, right? How is this showing up physically or metabolically for our high impact women?
Yes. So I first think, even before you get to the physical, is ask yourself the distinguishing question, in the way that I am functioning. Am I functioning this way because this is what I want to do and I feel led to do? Or am I functioning this way because this is what I supposed to or think I should do? Right. And so it's first trying to distinguish between that. And then from a physical perspective, there are so many different ways how our metabolic can affect in the way that we function. And so I mentioned it earlier with us just moving just to move and just to go. We get mentally depleted, we get physically depleted. And with that, we have certain macronutrients that provides us with energy, one of them being glucose, right? And glucose is extremely important for our brain function. And so, when people say that you're hangry, that's a thing. That is a true metabolic thing, because if we don't have enough energy in our body, then that can not only impact us, but it can impact our relationship. And there can be consequences to those relationships. And so when we are functioning, we have to take a step back and determine, okay, is this what I truly want? So if you are working in a place of growth and you're trying to achieve all the things, is this truly what you want? Is this truly in alignment with the woman that you have decided to become? That's one. And then, are you functioning as in a place of alignment? Is this functioning part of who you desire to be? Does it light you up? Does it fill your soul? Right? Because I feel like when you make those distinguishing differences, you can truly make sure that you're in a place that your energy is aligned, both internally and from a physical perspective.
Love that. I love that. All right, y'all. So listen, there's a lot of angles that you can attack this thing from. All right. You can be thinking about the physical, but I want you to be thinking about it all, right? The mental health and also how it's showing up in your relationships. And so as we kind of round out the discussion today, right, I want to leave you all with a reflection. Okay. So remember, none of this is about shame or blame. This is simply about awareness. Okay. So the question that I want to leave you all with is, if you are watching this live and you feel, or even if you're watching back on the replay, right? But if you feel exhausted, but still capable, I want you to be reflecting on, what is the first structural shift that you would need to consider this week? Now, mind you, I did not say personal shift. Okay. I said structural shift. So
Make it clear.
be thinking about what system, what environment, what space may need to be modified to meet you where you are, so that you are not misaligned with your energy. right? Because I want you to think about your energy like your budget, right? With money. And hopefully, listen, as a wealth advisor, you better have a budget, all right? And if you don't, DM me, I'll get you one. But if you have a bank account and you have a certain number of dollars, you're going to be, and you should be, monitoring where those dollars are being spent, right? And you will be monitoring very closely when it's getting low, right? Or listen, I'm gonna say this. And do not judge me, okay? Or you would be like me in my early 20s when I first got a bank account and I got a insufficient funds notice, right? And if you get an insufficient fund notice, right, you're gonna be like, oh shoot, I gotta do something, right? This is unacceptable, right? So those examples that Dr. J, that Jeannie, that Tiana just laid out for you of how it shows up, those are your insufficient fund notices, right? They're signaling to you, hey, something's misaligned here. We're not quite in agreement and in congruence with our life force, with what we are supposed to be doing, with the energy that we're supposed to be giving out. Or there's some sort of imbalance with how much energy I'm putting out versus how much I'm putting in. Okay, so that is the kind of the recap of our conversation today. And I want you all to take that with you and be reflecting on that until we come back next Wednesday. Same place, same time. All right, so we'll see you all next week. And thanks for joining us for Wealthy and Worthy Wednesdays.
Thanks for coming.
Bye-bye.